All right. Well, blessing and favor on your life, my brothers and my sisters. It is so good to be here in the virtual space with you. I'm going to give just a moment to get the information out there that we are live. I know some of you have been waiting for us to get on, and we are on. It's good to be with you. I've got some special guests that I'm excited to have that we will hear from. So I want you to do me a favor as you are getting this notification. Share this, let somebody know. We are going to be live tonight, but we're also going to re-air this for those who will watch the replay, and we are going to rebroadcast it as well. So come on in, and I'm going to take a moment and share this on my page because we are live on YouTube, and make sure that I get this to those of you who are looking for us on Facebook. And once again, I ask that you would do me a favor and to share this with your network, especially those of you who are in the city of Erie. It's so good to have an opportunity to talk right before Election Day about things that mean a lot to us and to our dear city. So come on in. I want to welcome not just the Live Empowered family, of course, those of you who are in the city of Erie, also those from my NACP family who'll be joining us as well. Feel free, if I do have time, I will look here and there at some of your comments and questions, and if we have the ability to, we will answer some of those. But please, ma'am, please, sir, share this. I'm doing that right now. Let me see. I see some of your messages already. So keep those coming. I'm so excited to have our guests. I'm going to give maybe about 60 seconds for you to come in. Again, I'm grateful for all of the special guests that I have joining us, and many of them are coming into the Zoom room now, and I want to welcome them and thank you for taking your time to join us. Some local candidates, also those joining us from across the state of PA. So come on in. And if by chance you are just logging in, we are recording this. And so we will be rebroadcasting it on various pages. All right. So with that said, let me come back to my Zoom room. And let me say that I am so excited to have with me some very, very important folk who all have different reasons in which they're joining us, but I think all of us love this, our state of Pennsylvania. Some local who, of course, love the city of Erie, want to talk about the importance of our vote. There is apathy, there is a lack of information that we want to speak to on tonight. We want to let you know that your vote does indeed matter. Your voice is needed, and there's so much on the ballot that we need you to pay attention to, and we need to do it collectively as a unit and as a team. And so I'm so grateful on tonight that my first guest is here with me, Ashley Session from the Committee of 70. She is here to join us, and I first want to just give her a second just to introduce herself to all of you, and then I'm going to ask her just a few questions.
Thank you, and good evening. I'm Ashley Session. I work at the Committee of 70 as the Senior Director of External Affairs and Strategic Partnerships. That just means that I talk to a lot of elected officials and encourage them to operate in good government across this great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So thank you, Pastor Cook.
I'm so grateful, Ashley, for you joining us. Of course, we have a mutual friend, that we are that she has a way of getting us both to do some things that we may not have been planning to do, but we're so grateful to God for one Selena King, and also grateful that we are here today. So, Ashley, this, like every election, we always hear that it's an important election, that we ought to be paying attention to this and to that. I want you just to give us an overview when you think about what are some issues we need to be paying attention to, what's on the ballot this year. Can you speak to that for those who may have some questions around it?
Yeah, so I'm gonna lead with the Committee of 70 as a nonpartisan organization, but understanding what is at stake across the Commonwealth here in this election has real implications. If we look back to what happened in previous presidential years around the election, the Supreme Court, which is on the ballot and at the top of the ticket, ultimately decided the outcome of that presidential election here in the state of Pennsylvania and ensured that voters' voices were heard and that their votes were counted. So it is in our best interest to elect those who have the integrity and the forethought to center election integrity, good government at the top of the ticket. So the Supreme Court is the race that's at the top of the ticket. And while we are always so focused on the presidential, the decision we make tomorrow will impact the future of elections here in the state of Pennsylvania. There are also a number of social issues that are on the ticket, top of the ticket. So a woman's right to choose, choice, and focusing on just the access to different government entities in a real way that constituents need like every single day and that folks need and it affects their quality of life. We also have the Superior Court, which has two open seats. And I think sometimes people say, I'll never get in front of the Superior Court. It's more likely if you have something big that's happening that you'll get in front of the Superior Court and you'll say, how did I get here? And you also want people who are there in front of you who operate probably from your same moral compass to get you to a place where justice is served or you get the right answers that you need for your quality of life. So we have the Supreme Court and the Superior Court, and then we have the Commonwealth Court. So the top three courts are up for have seats up for retention or election here in the Commonwealth, and those are extremely important. Now, while you may not see these judges every single day, or you may not see the folks that work in their office, they work for you tirelessly, and they create laws and pass decisions that even affect the local courts, right? In a number of counties across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the local judicial races are up also for election, and they will use some of the precedent that is set at the higher courts to dictate how they rule in other places.
Thank you so much for that. I think you really hit on some important points. Most of us don't think about a judge or think about the court until we got to stand in front of them. But you're really speaking to being proactive, and I really like what you said about having the ability to vote for someone that has your sense of values and moral compass. Can you just speak one more time about whenever we're voting for who is sitting on a bench, what are the types of things that is impacted by what they do? I know you mentioned some of them, but I just want to hammer that home a bit more so people understand how important this is.
Yeah, so the quality of life, I would talk about labor relations, some of the criminal and civil suits that may come in front of some of these judges, some of abortion. We talked about abortion and the woman's right to choose, or a person's right to choose for their quality of life. A person to love who they want to love, a person to exist how they want to exist across the Commonwealth. Those are some of the topics that we don't always think, again, will go in front of the judicial system. But because everybody does not have the same ideology, sometimes the courts have to make a decision for us and in our benefit. And we want to know that whether we're sitting in that courtroom or sitting at home, that the folks who are on the bench will make those decisions in our best interests.
Great. Thank you so much. I know I don't want to keep you long. I know we gave you a time frame, but just want to give you any sort of closing thoughts. Just maybe reiterate anything that you think is important, anything that is coming up that we may need to pay attention to even beyond tomorrow.
Yeah, so all eyes are always on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And I will tell you from a national standpoint, um, folks are looking at how we perform across the state tomorrow to see what our actual political proudness is. We need to ensure that we elect folks who are committed to democracy, who are committed to ensuring that everybody across the Commonwealth, no matter their ideology, is fought for in a fair way. And that matters. And that is probably the supreme thing at the top of the ticket tomorrow. We'll get to the presidential, we'll get to the Senate race. But if you don't do what you have to do tomorrow, you will not be able to complain about what may happen in the future. So sitting out tomorrow and being apathetic is not something that you want to do. The Committee of 70 has an amazing tool called Ballot Ready. And I'll make sure I get that information over to you. You can build your own ballot. All you do is put your address in. It'll tell you who's on the ticket. So you can print that out. It'll have every judge's name based on where you live or whoever's on the ballot, and you can take that into the ballot box with you. So those judges who are at the top of the ticket will be listed there. It's nonpartisan, so it'll let you walk through all of the candidates, but you get to pick, and you'll really be able to see how they square up on the issues. I will say the candidates who are here tonight did fill out our survey, so their information is in there, which means they took the time to contribute to your thoughts at the Committee of 70. So we encourage you to use it as ballot.70.org just to build your ballot and take it there. It does not take a long time to vote tomorrow, and we hope that everyone turns out.
Ashley, thank you so much for your time. Please, if you don't mind sharing that with me and,
Yep.
and any other information you have that will help our voters, we'll make sure that we get it out to them. But Ashley, thank you so much for your time. Any closing words?
No, thank you, and
All
get out the vote, and good luck to everybody tomorrow.
great, great. Thank you so much, Ashley. You take care.
Have a good evening.
All right, family. Again, I hope you understand how important this conversation is, and what Ashley just said is a good segue, because we have two judges who are joining us on tonight, and I want to get to them. I know that they're in between some things, I believe, in the Philly area and maybe places in between. But I'm so grateful to have Judge Dan McCaffery, candidate for PA Supreme Court, who was on. I know he has been with us for a little while, so he has heard this conversation. Judge McCaffery, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Pastor Cook, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your interest in this particular election and educating voters. I just listened to Ashley, what she had to say, and I can tell you right now, I don't think I could do a better job of explaining to the voters out there what is really at stake in this particular election cycle. So if you don't mind, I would just kind of like to introduce myself,
Yes, sir.
tell you a little bit about myself, and then we can kind of piggyback on what Ashley had just mentioned. I am Judge Dan McCaffery. I'm currently serving on the Pennsylvania Superior Court. The Superior Court is the busiest appellate court in the United States of America. We handle roughly 6,500 opinions a year. The 15 judges on our court. We are elected statewide. Our jurisdiction is all criminal, civil cases, orphans court, and family court matters. So Ashley's 100% correct when she says more likely than not, if you're going to be in front of any judge on any appeal, it's going to be the Pennsylvania Superior Court. The court that I'm running for right now is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which is a completely different animal. I also want to correct something Ashley said. The Supreme Court doesn't really handle cases on a case-by-case basis. And by that, I mean, I think it's important to understand that the Supreme Court really handles constitutional law questions, and they handle a lot of public policy questions. So in other words, the Supreme Court, the people on that court are going to be putting down the law that every other judge in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is going to be required to follow. For instance, in my court, the Superior Court, I have often found myself at odds to in situations where people, I disagree with a decision or I disagree with a law in a certain particular area, but I'm constrained to follow that law. In those instances, you have to let the Supreme Court know why you disagree with the Pennsylvania with the Pennsylvania law, and you have to target why you think the Pennsylvania law should be changed in any given area. To my delight, on about half a dozen occasions since I've been on the Superior Court, the Supreme Court's taken up my actually direction and changed the law for the betterment, including PCRAs, probation and parole traps. I come out of the court system. I've spent 32 years of combined legal and judicial experience. Judge Tamika Lane, who's going to be on with us tonight as well. Tamika and I were elected to the Court of Common Pleas together in 2013. We were actually trial partners for 6 years. We presided over literally thousands of cases, thousands in the busiest jurisdiction in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So we know where the holes in the system are, and we know how to make them better. And that's what's really driving our candidacy.
Great. I really appreciate that information and that education. I know that there's some places in this conversation that you can't go. So if there's of course a question that I ask, I know that again, there's some places that we can't go. But can you just give me a sense of some issues that we need to be paying attention to? I know you served on the Superior Court, on your way to the Supreme Court, and there may be some issues that we need to be paying attention as we go to the ballot box tomorrow, because when we vote, there's some things that we need to have in our minds when we go to the ballot box. So when you think about some issues we need to pay attention to, can you speak to that?
Sure. I'm going to piggyback on what Ashley said, because Ashley kind of touched on them. And this is what I tell people from Erie to Philadelphia, from Scranton to Greene County. And the examples that I use are what's happened over the last 5 or 6 years at the United States Supreme Court level. We all saw what happened with President Trump. President Trump got not one, but not two, but three appointees to the United States Supreme Court. He got to appoint Neil Gorsuch, he got to appoint Brett Kavanaugh, and he got to appoint Amy Coney Barrett. These individuals were all wonderfully qualified by experience and training to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. But each of these individuals answered questions regarding their judicial philosophy. They were asked specifically about issues like Roe versus Wade, women's reproductive rights, bodily autonomy. They were asked about affirmative action. They were asked about LGBTQ cases and marriage equality. They were asked about voting rights. They were asked about a whole series of issues that have been settled law. And each one of them answered the same way, which was, this is settled law. We will uphold the law. And what people need to pay attention to is it was the law right up until the majority of people on the individuals on the United States Supreme Court said it's no longer the law. The first case that they decided was the Dobbs case, which reversed Roe versus Wade and women's reproductive rights and bodily autonomy. The next case up was LGBTQ marriage equality. For the first time now in American history, it's okay to discriminate against the same-sex couple if you believe that they don't have a legitimate lifestyle. Affirmative action has been ripped away as an admissions college policy. Voting rights are now being restricted. And we've seen gerrymandering cases coming up to the United States Supreme Court, and they're allowing gerrymandering in certain districts as a partisan political choice, as opposed to what's happened here in Pennsylvania. The juxtaposition that I use is what happened really in Pennsylvania in 2015 when we elected 3 Democrats to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, being Kevin Dougherty, Christine Donahue, and David Wecht. Those 3 individuals tipped the majority on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. The first case that came in front of them was the challenge to the unconstitutionally drawn gerrymandered districts. We all know in Pennsylvania that we're very, very purple, as Ashley just alluded to. We are close to 50% Democrat, 50% Republican. Yet because of those districts and the way they were drawn, we had 13 Republicans in the House of Representatives and only 5 Democrats. Those 3 justices on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court tipped the majority in favor of Democrats. They undid the unconstitutionally drawn districts. And within one election cycle, we went from 13 Republicans and 5 Democrats to 9 Democrats and 9 Republicans. That's what Pennsylvania looks like. These were the same justices who oversaw the redistricting in 2020 and the redrawn House districts. As a result of that, we retook the House of Representatives, the Democrats, and we now have Joanna McClinton as the Speaker of the House. As a result of that takeover, that one vote takeover, we now have passed over 200 pieces of legislation. These are pro-workers, pro-democracy legislation coming out of the House of Representatives. The amount of work and productivity in the House is unprecedented because of what happened. And it all happened because of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. That's how critically important these races are. And I'll just mention this to you before, just so you can hear it from me. The Pennsylvania Superior Court currently has 14 judges. There are 7 Democrats, there's 7 Republicans. If we can elect Tamika Lane, Judge Tamika Lane, to my bench, it'll be the first time in memory Democrats have controlled a majority of members on the Pennsylvania Superior Court. For instance, Donald Trump filed over 60 lawsuits to overturn the 2020 election. He won only one case, and that was here in the Commonwealth of Court of Pennsylvania. That case was overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Had it not been overturned, 100,000 votes would have been invalidated, and that election would have swung to Donald Trump and not Joe Biden. That's how critically important majorities on these appellate courts are. It's critically important, as Ashley just said, and she put it out there, and I'm going to just, like I said to you, I'm going to confirm what she said. It's critically important that you elect people who share your values, who are going to stand up for democracy, stand up for affirmative action, women's reproductive rights, stand up for all of the issues that we have fought for and advanced over the last 60, 70, 80 years. And that's why I'm running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court.
Dan, thank you so much for all of that information. I'm hoping, and again, I want to stress this to all of you who are voters, who are on the fence about going to the ballot box. The purpose of this conversation is I want you to be informed. I want you to understand what some of the issues may be. It's not my goal to tell you who to vote for, but I want to give platforms so you can hear what some of the conversation is, and you can be introduced maybe to some voices who you haven't seen or heard from yet. And so I'm so grateful for Judge McCaffrey, and I'm going to give you just one more opportunity, just quickly. Any closing thoughts that you have as I get ready to switch over to Judge Tamika Lane?
The only closing thoughts I would have is, and I hope people understand this, this has been a long, arduous 12 months process. I've earned a reputation. I'm highly recommended by the Pennsylvania Bar. I've earned a reputation that I've acquired over 40 years. I'm somebody from a blue-collar, middle-class background. My mother and father came to this country from Ireland to escape religious oppression and to practice their religion freely in America and to make a better opportunity and a better life for their children. I come from a very blue-collar, labor-centric background. At the age of 18, I joined the United States Army, served proudly in the 1st Cavalry Division. I attended college and law school on a veteran scholarship. I built my career. I've served in the inner city for my entire 32 years of practicing law. I bring a certain perspective to this particular court that I don't think anybody else has ever brought in the last 30 years of watching Supreme Court elections. But I want people to understand something. Tamika, Judge Lane, and I, we've been endorsed by literally over 1,000 labor organizations across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, representing hundreds of thousands of working class people across Pennsylvania. The people that are on the other side of this particular debate are basically being funded by one person who's the richest person in Pennsylvania, a multi-billionaire who's dumping millions and millions of dollars in this election cycle. That's how critically important it is for people to understand and see through the rhetoric and see who we are and why we're running. Because if you elect Judge Dan McCaffrey to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and you elect Judge Tamika Lane to the Superior Court, you're going to get two people who share your values, who are going to bring a blue-collar, lunch-pail work ethic to work every day and to make sure that your rights are protected and the constitutional rights that we fought for over the last 60 years and 100 years are not going to be peeled away from us and are going to be protected. So thank you for doing this, Pastor Cook. It means a lot.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your voice. And we're just so grateful to hear all of the information. And I know people don't always know what the Superior Court is, what the Supreme Court, and sometimes people even mix up what happens in PA with what's happening on the federal level. And so we are grateful that you came to share and to give us your perspective and also give us this great information. So
Pastor
again,
Cook,
thank you, Judge. Yes.
If it makes you feel any better, there are times when I don't know what the Superior Court does either. So.
I appreciate that.
Take care.
It does. You do the same. Appreciate you coming on. I'm so grateful to have Judge Tamika Lane, who is joining us. And I know that it has been a very busy cycle and season for her and for many who are moving around. But we're so glad to have her. We had her in our city, I believe, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I know that she has been here in the city of Erie and she has met many in our great city. And we're so glad to welcome Judge Tamika Lane one more time. Judge Lane, how you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You see, I'm out here on the trail in a gym.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you taking some time to join us, and I want to give you the same platform just to share with us. First of all, want to know why this election is is so important. What is the significance of it, and then also just share with us some information about yourself and some issues we need to pay attention to.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I was listening off and on, but I heard Ashley give an excellent presentation, and Judge Darrell McCaffrey gives an excellent overview about all the appellate courts and why they matter. And I have to say the same thing. So many times people forget about this other branch of government, right? The judicial branch, which is a co-equal branch of government. But this is the only branch that has a power to take away your liberty, put you in jail, take away your home, your property, your children, your money, all with the stroke of a pen, your rights. It is so vital that we start paying attention to these courts and why courts matter and why judges matter, because we know how disproportionately we as Black and brown people are affected by the court system. So judges matter. In Pennsylvania, we are one of the few states that actually elect our judges. So we can actually have a say in who we have represent us on the bench. And I think that that is so important. Do your research, see who is on this ballot, see who shares your values. You know, I was born and raised in this part of Philadelphia called the Bottom. You know, it's like the other side of the tracks. And my very blue collar, you know, my mom was a police officer, my dad was a Marine, and my grandmother worked in a cafeteria. You know, that's the stock I'm made of. My grandmother had a saying that it's not about you, honey, or child. And I'm so glad I learned that at an early age, that it's not about me. Even me running for this position, it's not about me. It is about how we can impact everyone else. It is about you. It's about your family, our children, and our future, what we want Pennsylvania to be. And we are very, very lucky that we have a slate of judges crisscrossing Pennsylvania, making sure we bring awareness to why courts matter. Again, a little bit about me. I was a seventh grade public school teacher because I dedicated my life to service. I was a public defender representing adults and juveniles who couldn't afford representation. I was a child advocate representing abused and neglected children. I worked in Harrisburg as state senator, Anthony Hardy Williams, our chief counsel, and I was also the executive director of the state government committee. The reason why I mentioned that state government committee is because that's where we had a really repressive photo ID law that passed through there. And it wound up going through the courts, and it was later declared unconstitutional. But it would have severely impacted seniors. It would have impacted marginalized Black and brown communities and poor communities. And I think it was so important that I had that experience in Harrisburg, seeing how laws were made and how they really impacted our communities up close and personal. And then I stepped out on faith. In 2013, as a single mom, I left my job. I sold my car because I had no money to run. And I put in the work, and I just ran out there and just told everybody why I was running. I know we don't have enough time, so I'm not going to get into you to some of those stories that propelled me to do these things. But after talking it over with my pastor and my family, we did it. And I think that was not me. Again, it was God, you know, because I trusted by stepping out on faith. And it's so important that we have representation. Out of over 30 judges in our appellate courts, only 2 are people of color, and they're not even on the same appellate court, because we have the Supreme Court, the Commonwealth Court, the Superior Court. And representation matters, different voices matter, different life experiences matter. So thank you for just letting us come on and talk about the courts and why this election matters. In our slate, our Democratic slate, we are highly recommended or recommended. I'm highly recommended for this position, and we are for the Superior Court. We're highly recommended. So please pass the word to get the word out about voting and why it matters. We have to make sure our voices are heard, because otherwise, who's going to care if we don't even care enough to vote?
Judge Lane, thank you so much for that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to this, our great state. We appreciate you. I'm gonna let you get back to the trail because I know you're moving around.
I am, but I just want to tell you that Erie
Yes.
has always been so good to me. I love Erie. I am there a lot, and I am there in spirit now. So thank you for allowing me to get on here and say hello to the good people of Erie.
Yes, indeed. Looking forward to talking with you again soon, and wish you the best tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
And again,
Take
don't
care.
forget, everything is on the line. We have to protect our rights, from a woman's right to choose, our voting rights, criminal justice, you name it, it is on the ballot. Whatever you care about, it is on this ballot. And you better bring, not only you, bring your grandmother, your little brother, Pookie from the corner store. You better grab everybody and get them out to vote. We need it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Judge Lane for Superior Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Lane. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Again, you heard it. I want you to hear these voices. We've had three who are running, or not, no, two running statewide, and we've heard from three voices from across our state. And we want to just take a moment and we want to get more local, because we know that the closer we get to what's happening locally, the more it impacts us in various ways. And so I am grateful that we have two who are on the line right now. Even before I do that, I do want to acknowledge a comment that Selena made in the comment section. She says, also fair funding in our public schools is due to the PA Supreme Court's decision. And she wants us to know, again, why it is so important that we vote for who is sitting on the bench, because it impacts so many areas and aspects of our life. People who say politics don't matter, politics impacts the roads you drive on, where you walk. It impacts how you live, the quality of your life, healthcare, and everything in between. And so politics matters, your voice matters. But I'm so grateful to have Tyler Titus, who is with us. Tyler has been here from the beginning. And so I want to get to Tyler, want to hear from Tyler, and just to share with us what's going on. How is everything coming?
So thank you so much. I will listen to those judges talk all the time. So I've got the pleasure of being at many places where they are, and they remind me why it's so critical to get the vote out, right? We often hear things like off-year elections, and there's no such thing. There's odd-year elections, and those tend to be the municipal races and the judicial races that where we're not paying a lot of attention, because we're not talking about the Senate and we're not talking about the president. But this is where really the rubber meets the road. When it comes to local elections, what's absolutely critical for us to understand is what you just said, where our kids go to school, what the inside of those classrooms look like. From the groceries we have access to the stores that we can get to the cars that we can drive, to the jobs that we can work at, are all on the ballot tomorrow. Who you elect at city council, county council, and up through those district magistrates in those positions on your school board, they all have a direct impact on our everyday life. And so it's not just about, yes, I'm on the ballot and I would be honored to get everybody's vote, but it's bigger than that. We need to get out and we need to make sure that our voices are heard. Because if we don't use our voices, someone will gladly step up and take it from us and implement their will. And we're seeing that happen right now, all over the city and the county.
So Tyler, what do you believe the key issues our city faces, and how do you plan to address them from where you are?
Oh my gosh, there are so many issues that are near and dear to my heart, but some of the ones that I think we're immediately seeing right now is things like safe housing, lack of employment opportunities that really pay a wage, not just family sustaining wages. We're talking about individuals who are having to take on 2 or 3 jobs to be able to pay their rent and keep a roof over for their individual self. And we've got a real problem. We've got a real problem around our mental health and our crime that's happening in the city, and a lot of this due to poverty. And then you can link a lot of that back to poverty. We don't have access to quality paying jobs. We're seeing a lot of the service industry kind of come in, and we need those jobs too, but we also got to make sure that we've got spaces for those skill sets to kind of go to work. We've not done a great job wrapping around our public schools. So that's, Mr. Sharif is a phenomenal human that we need to keep on the school board. And so I'm excited we're going to hear his voice. But when I hopefully take that seat in city council, I don't want to be presumptive, because we need everyone to get out and get that vote out there. I want to focus on housing. I want to focus on good paying jobs, and I want to make sure that we're investing our money in transparent ways that's lifting up everybody in Erie and not just some of the more wealthy businesses. We need to make sure that we've got safe neighborhoods, that families can afford to keep their homes, and that we're helping them stay in safe living situations.
I'm curious, and I appreciate you talking about housing. What particularly is drawing you towards that issue around housing? What do you plan to do? What would you say maybe 2 to 3 specific issues are, and what are some of your thoughts around solving them?
Well, right off the bat, when we look at home ownership, we're seeing a very high renter rate, and we're seeing a lot of those the houses being bought up by people who don't even reside in the city. So when we talk about home ownership, and we know that only 4% are owned by people of color within the city, we've got a real issue. We've got a real issue, and we need to start looking at things like what are we doing around zoning? What are we doing about the pathways to home ownership, right? How are we helping our Black and Brown communities get the loans that they need or stay in those houses, be able to do the remedial work on those houses so they can stay safely and not lose those properties that have been in there for generations. And then when I'm on there, I want to be able to do the things like we're seeing fight for the tenant rights, make sure that we are, upholding both the landlord and those who are renting so that things are safe and that they don't skyrocket to the point where we're gentrifying parts of our city, because we're seeing that happen right now. But very specifically, part of my focus is making sure that we make a little bit of equity and headway in who gets to own a house and who gets to stay in a house, and how we make those pathways forward for families.
Is there anything that has worked in the past that you want to reach back for? Anything that you're looking to bring to the table that you can give us a sense of?
One of the great programs right now that's in the works is some of the things that our West Bayfront are doing, or some of these smaller organizations like Sisters of St. Joseph, where they're they're helping build those platforms. You're getting into lease, and then you have the opportunity to own that space. But where some of these organizations are maybe buying the land and the person is buying the house on that property, and how do we keep it so that they're staying for Erie residents and staying within those families? We see public dollars going to work for some, but not for all. So how do we bring those public and private dollars and donors into a space where it's leveling the playing field and just not leveling houses and pushing people out of neighborhoods?
Great. I appreciate that. Quick, I guess my last question is, what do you think you would bring to council that isn't there already?
I think I have the perspective of growing up in poverty, growing up in a rural area, and having to kind of rebuild and rebrand myself, knowing what it's like to be told that my voice didn't matter. I am a queer person and proudly a queer person, and being told that people like me don't belong in a representative office, or people like me shouldn't really have a voice because we're less than. So know what it's like to fight to make sure that I have a seat at every table, to make sure that my voice isn't silenced, and I bring that with me in every room that I go in. As a therapist who's worked with families through complex trauma, domestic violence, I hear their voices and I hear their stories every time I'm in a conversation. And I know it's much more complex. It's not as simple as people aren't working or people don't want to go to work, that people are lazy, right? The systems have been designed to hold some people back. And so I'm bringing the voices of every individual I've ever sat with, every family that I've ever cried with, and then my own childhood experiences of having to fight for just the right to exist when I serve in that city council seat.
And I'm sorry, I got one more question.
Yeah.
Opportunities. What would you say are some opportunities Erie has? So something that is good, because one thing I can say is that I love Erie. So I love our city. I know that there's a lot of good here. What's something going well, but you also see an opportunity the next 3 to 5 years for us to capitalize on?
Oh, I think our small businesses, we have some phenomenal entrepreneurs here. We have some brilliant innovators. And I think we need to make sure that we're elevating their voices and that we're keeping these small businesses with the access to resources that they need to maintain. We saw the pandemic hit some communities harder. We've got, I can't say enough, just being in Erie, I'm very committed to this city. We are in the hub. We're the connector of 3 giant cities. And so we are very well positioned, especially along the lake, to do some phenomenal things around tech, to do some phenomenal things, with innovation in other areas too. And I don't think we can't let another opportunity pass us by. We saw the money kind of go in places in our response to the pandemic that I think let some opportunities soar by. But we've still got some brilliant minds here, and I would hate to see them leave, because we've got a lot of the solutions to our problem are already here, right here in Erie.
I appreciate you, Tyler, for taking some time with me. Any closing thoughts?
just make sure, and I know you're gonna get sick of hearing it, we have to vote. There is no such thing as an off election. If you care about your schools, if you care about the food that you get to eat, if you want your kids to stay here, if you want new people to move here, tomorrow's where you make that happen.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for joining us. Wish you well tomorrow. And we are going to move. We've got Zachariah Sharif, who was here joining us. And also, I need to say this. I should have said this earlier. There may be some other candidates that want to reach out to me. I would love to talk with you. It has been my goal to be in this conversation, just to be fair and also to bring information to voters. So if there's somebody's like, look, you didn't hear my perspective, you didn't hear my side, look, reach out to me. I'll definitely give you space, give you opportunity to speak. We would love to hear you. But we're so grateful for those who made time on tonight. And one is a friend of mine, Zachariah Sharif, who is here. How you doing today, brother?
Good. How you doing, Pastor Cook?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining me. Why don't we just start here? What are you running for?
I'm running for Erie City School Board. I'm currently on the board. I was appointed back in January when Dr. Leah Tate resigned because she moved out. So I'm currently on the school board. So I'm running for the same position for the 2 years to finish out that, and then I'm also on the ballot for the 4 year as well, because there's 5 positions open for that.
Great. And let's just take a moment to educate our listeners when it comes to the school board. What does the school board do? So often we don't mention the school board until there's something wrong or something happens at the school, or there's been some money that's been mismanaged in some way, but we don't always have the school board's work in the front of our mind. So give me a sense of what the school board does.
The school board basically is what sets the policies, how the whole district is run, from, what time the kids, basic examples like what time school starts, what time school ends, and at the same time, we're voting on key issues as far as like programming, when we're like constricted with budgets, having certain, sometimes we're stricken with budget as far like, we coming out of financial difficulties, sometimes we making those difficult decisions to make which program moves forward as far as, and also the school board is in charge of hiring the superintendent, who in essential runs the district as well.
Great.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you just to kind of give me some insight on what have been some of the recent issues or concerns that the school board has addressed, or maybe some problems that they're looking to manage now.
So a lot of it with with the safety and security, and as you hear a lot, like we have to implement with safety what is happening around the world with school shooting and all that. So we have to kind of take a stricter look on it. I myself have 5 kids that attend Erie Public Schools. I myself am a prodigy of public education. So we first and foremost, we want to keep our teachers, our students, everybody safe, and so we have implemented put in these barriers, metal detectors, but that's not the only answer. We really have to work closely with the law enforcement that are in the schools to keep our kids safe. But other things that that's been working on improvement of the graduation rates, attendance has been, especially coming out of the pandemic, those numbers are very low, and we're really working hard trying to bring those numbers up.
Great. What would you say? So you've been serving, what has it been, a year?
Since January. So
Yeah,
January,
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
About less than a year, yes.
A little bit less than a year. And you're looking to re-up for 2 years and then even the full 4 years, right?
Absolutely. My goal is at least to finish the term that I started. I ran in 2021, and I didn't get on there, with usually with these races, even though I Tyler mentioned, like, I personally believe education is what it really starts. That's with every speaker that we had tonight, from Tyler's, Judge Lane, Judge McCaffrey, like it all starts in education. Selena mentioned about the fair funding, for example. These judges make the decision on these fundings. Specifically impacts our public schools here in Erie, PA, because we are we have a lot of students who are behind in schooling, so we need more money funding, and majority of our funding comes from the state level.
What would you say are some of the major threats that the school board is dealing with right now? I know you said safety is an issue. It sounds like maybe test scores, maybe issues. I don't know, of literacy, but give me a sense of what some of the major threats are for the school board that you think we need to address over the next 2 to 4 years.
To be honest with you, the first and foremost is funding. We need level funding. We need to expect that we'll receive X amount of funding from the state every year. We can't continue to increase taxes on our citizens, our citizens in the city or whatnot. So funding is number one on the top of the chart. And then I would say teacher recruitment, because we've seen since the pandemic a lot of educators are exiting that field. So trying to not just entice new educators, but recruiting teachers and administrators in our school district, specifically those who represent our student populations.
Right. I totally agree, and I would love to hear, have there been any conversations around any plans to recruit maybe talent that is already existing, or maybe on the backside of that, talent that we need to train up, and kids that maybe we identify who may want to teach, and so we help them navigate whatever that career path might be, to incentivize them. I don't know, but have there been any conversations around how that's going to happen?
Absolutely. I mean, right before I came on the school board, I think Mr. Ken Nixon has been hired as a diversity equity about 6-7 years ago in the district. The focus is recruitment, and often people talk about, there needs to be a budget line item to assist him in that. And so in the last couple of months, that's been the conversation, like how are we gearing assistant in that position to get the talent. And some of the things that I've noticed just talking to other school districts and traveling, and often it comes back to money, because a lot of these other schools are offering incentives to recruit teachers or administrative positions. So that's the conversation we're having right now, is what we have to go that same route, whatever is from Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Michigan. We have to have some kind of incentive to recruit people. And there's also with Mercyhurst right now, there's a lot of cohorts of group of students who are attending there, and a lot of them are going in the education field, and hopefully, and a lot of these kids are those who graduated from our schools. Hopefully that they will come back into school district. But we need to incentivize for people to come to our school district, but also and not just, and of course, giving teachers a higher pay, but it all comes back to getting that level funding from the state level. So we also got to advocate to our local legislators who go to Harrisburg on our behalf, that we have to get them in the line, and what's the need in our district. I know we had a meeting last Friday at the state of the district, and there were some local officials there as well. And I wasn't specifically there; I was traveling with my family, but there was a lot of good conversation that I heard that was had around in that recruitment. And I really encourage people to come to these school board meetings here, because that's the exact conversation that we're having right now. What are we doing about recruitment? Because we know that a lot of teachers are retiring, so we need to be prepared for this. A lot of administrators are retiring. We need to be prepared for this. So I've been pushing really for that, as far as providing some kind of incentive, and also, again, like representation. We need more teachers that looks like the kids in our district.
Great. I want to ask you the same question that I asked Tyler before I wrap up. So often around this time, people engage in fear mongering. So we talk exclusively about the problems, or we talk about the bad, we talk about the negative. But I know just like I said to Tyler, I love Erie. I think Erie has a lot to offer. I think that we have some major opportunities ahead of us, some great things, initiatives happening right now. And there's some things that maybe we're looking forward to. So I would love to hear from you. What are some opportunities that we can capitalize on? Some things that are going well, especially from the perch of someone who sits on school board. What's going well, and what are some opportunities that we have in the future?
Thank you, thank you. I personally, I love Erie myself. You know, my family came, as a refugee here in '96, and my parents just fell in love with Erie, and they've been here over 26 years, and I've been here now raising my family. Of course, our district has been through challenges, but we should also focus on the positive. We are working on renovating a lot of the schools. There's big construction going on at Erie High, and all the schools, and the Blinnicott Field. Those are milestones. We have this month, we're gonna have the new building of Edison Elementary School starting up, and we're seeing even in our last school board meeting, we looked at the PASA scores. The trajectory is looking good for our schools. There's still a challenge. I'm not saying there isn't, but it's looking up. But some of the opportunities that if everybody who's listening, is that we really need to get our parents engaged. The parents have to be on the board, and I truly believe that, teachers spend a lot of time with the kids, but we also need parents to be on the board to, come support their kids, attend these teacher meetings so that they know what's happening with their kids' education. Because I personally believe everything starts at home. We can't continue to point fingers. As a parent, we have responsibility to get our. So I'm just making a big ask for parents to nudge more, to be more involved in the kids' education. Come out, listen to the board. To the board meetings, if you have questions, you have anything, you can reach out to any of us. I'm always available, and it's like so many people, I'm always out in the community. So that's one of the biggest opportunities that I believe that we need to engage the communities more, and we need more parents engaged. And I think that will make a lot things easier for educators, and also moving our schools forward as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Want to give you opportunity. Any closing thoughts that you have that you want people to hear or to know about before they go to the ballot box tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to ask for your support tomorrow, November 7th. Vote for me, Zachary Sharif. I cross-filed. I'm on a 2-year, 4 years, and there's a lot of great candidates, but I'm really engaged. Anybody who knows me, I'm out in the community doing what's best, and not just for my kids, for all the kids in our district and our teachers. So I hope people turn out. Like, Judge Lane said, get your cousins, your mother, your grandma, everybody out to vote, because this elections matters. These local elections matters. Often people don't come out, they only worry about, the presidential, but these elections, it really has impact on our community. So I'm just encouraging for everybody to come out, vote tomorrow, and specifically for me and all those who are on a call tonight. So I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to be on this call.
Man, I certainly appreciate you coming, and wish you the best tomorrow. And thank you for all the work that you've done, not just on school board, but I know you're active across our city. And so I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, everybody, I think that's it. I don't have anybody else in the queue. I know we possibly have one more coming, but I don't see them in the queue. But this time was really just about me giving you the opportunity to hear from some voices, people who are running, and people who have passion about the issues. And I always say this, it's not for me to tell you who to vote for or how to vote, but I do want to empower you, one, with information, but also I want you to be engaged in the process. Voting is important. Voting, and don't miss this. Voting is not the only part of the process. It is part of the entire process. that we must be engaged throughout the entire part of it. And I think that's part of why people are so apathetic, because they say voting didn't work. And when you talk to them, they voted one time. But we have to gather ourselves around the issues, things that are important to us. And when we organize and when we connect together, we use platforms just like this to speak to areas that are important to us. And there may be some things that you didn't agree with as you listen to some of the commentary on the day. But one thing we can agree with is that there's a level of passion and love that most of us have for our city. We want the best for Erie, because a better Erie is going to be a better street block that we live on. It's going to be a better school system for our kids to thrive and to grow and to develop in. It's going to mean better jobs, better wages. All of that is a part of the process. And so I want us to be energized. If you weren't even thinking about voting, I want you to have it on your radar now. Go ahead, take a little time and get out there. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Polls are open. And I do want to put this out there, because I know some of the criticism and some of the critique will be, Pastor Cook, you didn't have anybody from the right on today, and that was just a matter of access. So if there is someone who wants to talk to me, who wants to utilize the platform that I have to share your voice, I want you to know that I'm more than willing. I'm open to give you audience and to allow you to do what I did today, to share uninterrupted what you have to say to our community. And so if there's one you want to reach out to me, you can reach me through folk that you know, some of who have been mentioned. I don't want to give anybody any extra workload, but I do want to be fair, and I do want this to be something that I say that I do believe that we can listen to different sides, and people are smart enough to make up their minds and to figure out what's going to be best for our city, for our community. And so I will open that up. May go live again. If I get any response to that, I'll go live again tomorrow throughout the day. And we'll hear from those who may have something else that they want to contribute to this conversation. But the big thing, my big goal today, is just to encourage you. I want you to hear me say this: get out to vote. Take a moment and vote. Exercise this right that so many died and so many had this withheld from them. And every time I go to the ballot box, I don't just go for myself. I remember my granddaddy telling me stories about what he went through and conversations about the level of pride that he had when he went. Some people don't realize we are not far removed from a time in which many of our ancestors could not vote. And it's not just about Black and brown. Women's voices were muted, and they weren't able to exercise their own autonomy when it comes to their vote. And so we have a responsibility as citizens to make sure that our voice is heard. And not just, as many of those who talked tonight said, not just in the presidential election, but to realize how we vote tomorrow is going to impact our everyday life. Local elections matter. What happens across this state matters. We want to make sure that we engage in the process. I'm also going to share, Ashley gave some information. I'm going to make sure that I get that out. I'm going to share that. I'm going to play this broadcast on Facebook. For whatever reason, we weren't able to go live on Facebook. We're only live on YouTube. And so I'm going to download this video and I'm going to re-air it tonight on Facebook for those of you who may have looked for it on Facebook, so that you have it there. With that being said, I am out of here. Sister Denise Horton, thank you so much. Thank you for the trail that you blazed. I'm walking on a path that you have blazed, and all the work that you have done around voting rights and making sure voices were heard and candidates were resourced. Sister Horton, you've been a major part of that. Your family has been a part of that. And so I'm grateful to you, of course, to Selena King, who was always behind the scenes, making sure that voices are heard. Gary Horton is another major voice, and Reverend Charles E. Mock. There's so many people that are passionate about justice, passionate about this, our city, passionate about us having all that we can so that we can be the best that we can. And I still believe in Erie. I may be by myself. I don't think I am. I still believe in Erie. All right. I'm out of here praying with you. I'm praying for you. This is Pastor Cook signing off. Say it one more time. Your vote matters. All right. And let me see if I can turn off this Zoom, because y'all know technology sometimes has a mind of its own. But I will see you soon. Take care. Peace.